All right, welcome everyone. Here we are in beautiful Los Angeles after the World of Coffee show. My name is Ben. I'm a coffee judge, but I only judge people on stages, never out in the real world. I'm really very nice. And this is It's Just Coffee. We are here to have a great discussion with an incredible talent in the industry. Yes, a font of knowledge here about the world of human resources. And I am super excited about this conversation because it doesn't happen enough. And I think it's like the missing superpower of the coffee world or of the hospitality world sometimes, that we have incredible people in our community, but maybe we don't have the systems or the tools or the training to kind of empower them to unleash what maybe we need to take specialty forward. Like, it's actually quite a significant thing. So welcome aboard, Mr. Eric J. Grimm of Coffee Human Resources. Did I get that right? Human Coffee Resources.
The Coffee Human Resource.
The Coffee Human Resource. I just garbled it all there. Welcome. Thanks for taking some time out. We're sitting in a beautiful little park bench here in front of an LA town hall.
Yes, the Culver City Hall. Yeah, this is the perfect atmosphere for it. And honestly, the way that you just put it out, you could be the Coffee Human Resource. Like the fact that you just called it the missing superpower, that's the way that I think about it all the time. I'm evangelizing on behalf of human resources and trying to make it more prevalent in coffee.
Did you have a moment in your coffee career where you had like this was an incredible experience being supported as an employee?
Ooh, I don't know that there was ever a specific moment because so much of the human resources journey that I've gone on has been out of a sense of lack, you know?
Yeah.
Because I worked for, when I started in coffee in New York in 2008, so I'm year 18 at this point.
Nice.
Very small business, on and off for 9 years, no human resources to speak of.
Yeah, right.
And then I worked for a much bigger coffee company, and there were human resources, but it was very much the cover your ass mentality.
Yep.
It was incredibly corporate. It was...
They heard you. They're sending.
I know, the alarm.
We've got LA sirens.
That's actually how you know that it's a dire situation out there for human resources in coffee. LA was telling you, we have to sound the alarm for this. And that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to very gently sound the alarm.
I love it.
But yeah, so I was in this situation where I saw human resources as either something that was not there at all or was just something there to cover a business and make sure that they didn't get sued. And I've always operated in a sense of nuance, in a sense of empathy, and I wondered if there was any room for that in putting these systems together.
Yeah.
And so it became a little bit of an interest, and then I was like, I think that given all of the things that we do in coffee, given all of the ways that we say, here is a problem, let's solve it in a creative way, maybe we could do that with human resources.
Yeah.
So, the first step in all of that is to get certified. So I got certified as an associate professional in human resources, 10 weeks of courses, 300 question tests, the whole shebang. And one of the first things you learn in human resources is the history of it. It's born out of labor movements.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So especially when we're talking about the United States, labor movements that were making sure that you didn't work 16-hour days anymore,
Sure.
that you didn't work in unsafe working conditions that led to literal deaths of people.
Yeah.
If we're talking about Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, that's the big one. That's a little bit of a, that's a turning point of just like people dying in a fire. So this comes like labor movements, you start getting much better treatment of workers, and then you have to have professionals that actually administer all of that, that hold people to those standards. So it starts off that way. Very good intentions overall, and, have to have somebody administering all of that. Yep. And then slowly, we get to like major capitalism. We get to Reagan years and all of that in the United States, and it's just unfettered capitalism. And then maybe human resources really is just a way of covering a company, making sure that they're compliant, and hopefully making sure that they don't get
What was
sued.
the acronym you mentioned before we started recording about the role of human resources in the corporate space sometimes?
Oh, CYA, cover your ass.
Yeah, cover your ass. That is not what we were talking about.
Exactly. We definitely don't want, and there is some element of cover your ass for sure, but for me, it's where can I stand in the middle of it?
Yes.
And so once I got certified, I realized, okay, I started as a barista. I actually started as a cashier. I started as a cashier who was not allowed to make any coffee whatsoever.
Sure.
And then moved into barista and, have had very fortunate career pathways that I've either carved for myself or that people have supported me in. So I stand in the middle here as human resources, saying that I have advocacy for hourly coffee workers and I have empathy for business owners.
Sure. That's a great junction to kind of be at, because I know a lot of our listeners are both, there's a lot of baristas out there around the world, but also cafe owners and business owners. And it should be like that space of the interaction between all of us within the community should be something that's functional and healthy and I guess constructive.
Yes.
Right? In terms of how that moves. Like, it is a business landscape. And so the cafe owner has a need to make sure that they're investing and supporting, but that also they're holding people kind of accountable in a way of like, are you getting the job done that we need you to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, constructive is the best way to put it because it comes from both directions. Often, if there isn't great communication and if there isn't some level of transparency, both sides are going to be suspicious of each other.
Yeah.
Like cafe owners being like, they're out to get me.
Yeah.
White Lotus, these gays are trying to kill me. And then hourly coffee workers are like, here's this rich person who owns a cafe. All cafe owners are rich.
Very so rich. All of you cafe owners. Yeah.
I'm like,
not
right?
True.
It's like, how long have we both been in coffee? And like, did it make us rich?
Yeah.
I'm waiting on it.
Please. Not according to the hotel I'm staying at here in Los Angeles.
Exactly. Not according to whoever's couch I have to sleep on in whatever area of the world I am in an event.
Yeah.
But if we improve the communication structures and those feedback loops between those sets, I think that everybody can, or most people can generally agree that everybody has the best intentions.
Yeah.
But even then, you still have to remind people every once in a while because people have survivor mechanisms,
Yeah. And I think that, I believe that most people do have the best intentions, but I guess, are you saying with survivor mechanism that also it can be very easy for the pressures and the stress to kind of overwhelm, like, our humanity sometimes in that?
Yes, that's a perfect way of putting it. It overwhelms our humanity. It actually turns our empathy off.
Yeah.
Because we're just like, oh, I have to get from point A to point D somehow.
Yes.
And I feel unsupported in that, whether it's on, this level of the power structure at the top or this level of the power structure at the bottom.
Yeah.
And if you're in the mindset of thinking that there's a ladder and there's a top and a bottom, there's only so far that you can get to it. So I'm trying to create more of a slope, right?
Yep.
Where somebody, a business owner, reasonably is at the top of the slope for sure, or the power is concentrated in their direction, but it's an easy walk down to hopefully the middle where we can meet and agree on a few things and then go back in our separate directions and then have the best intentions and work together in order to have the best outcomes.
Yeah. So I think we've kind of established the power of this space within business and within employment, but for some folks might not be as familiar with kind of what it actually involves, right? And it does involve different things for different sizes and types of companies, right? So can you give us a little bit of a foundation for how do you see what human resources encapsulates?
Yes. So I'll say it from my standpoint of what I do on a daily basis at this point. I am both a human resources consultant and also a fractional director of human resources.
Okay.
So as a human resources consultant, most of what I do is help companies develop handbooks and policies. this is the very minimum that we want, is for there to be a handbook and there to be policies that are directly applicable to the daily operations. Handbook is often going to be a lot of legalese.
Yep.
And in the United States, what we're looking at is that you're compliant with federal laws, that you're compliant with state laws, and that you're compliant with city laws. Because
that's a lot of laws to be compliant with.
It's so many laws, and it's so different.
Exciting.
Thrilling. And because I mostly operate with businesses in California and New York, which are the most difficult places to run businesses from so many standpoints, I have the most intense versions of that, particularly in California. Easier to operate in California than it is in New York. So then when I get a client in Illinois, for example, I'm like, oh, wow, I don't even have to think about most of this stuff. But I can introduce the concepts to them and say, hey, does this resonate with you? You don't legally have to do it, but it might be nice if you considered doing it.
Yeah, interesting.
So yeah, that's a lot of what I do on the consulting end. Also, so much conflict resolution. Because people are really bad at having difficult conversations. Most people are conflict averse. It is a survival mechanism.
So if you were to kind of list with human resources, what are the segments or the parts of that puzzle that you would kind of like see that as? If people were like mentally mapping it, maybe there's some baristas who are wanting to start their first cafe, or they already have, but they've never really dabbled into thinking about this part of their business. What are the chunks of that they should think of?
The HR 101, which is actually a class that I teach.
Okay. Well, all right. We can't give you the answers right now. You got to subscribe to this guy, pay some great money, definitely.
But no, the very basic set of it, we talked about handbook and policies, which is something that you want from the outset. It sets a good standard as far as, this is what we're about, and this is these are the agreements that we can come to, both here's what we'll provide as a business, here's what we expect you to provide as an employee of this business. The one thing that almost everybody gets wrong as well, onboarding procedures. Just the whole onboarding experience. The statistics are dire. 80% of people, and this is in the United States, have a poor onboarding experience. It's unclear. It doesn't really work very well. If we're talking about retail coffee particularly, and I'm sure this is going to resonate with you, I'm sure it's going to resonate with a lot of people. It's your first day. You've been told to go into a cafe. You show up and you're like, hey, it's my first day, to a barista on staff, and they're like, who are you?
Wow, I feel so special. I immediately feel like a valued part of this team.
Exactly. And maybe they're the only person on staff that, and they've not been informed that a new person is coming in.
Multiple functions.
Exactly. Maybe they've started 2 weeks ago, and then maybe it's their job that day to train you.
Jeez. Yes, I definitely have seen that experience happen.
You don't know where to park. You don't know exactly what your work schedule is. You maybe have been given an idea of how much you're supposed to come into this place. You maybe have been given an idea of how much your hourly rate plus tips is going to be, but it's all a little bit of a shot in the dark. It most of the time is. So having an actual onboarding structure, from a welcome email to where do you park? Where do you go for lunch? Do you have a comped meal? Any of that stuff. And that doesn't take a long time. I've in fact written an article about the very basic things that you can do to have a positive onboarding experience.
It's an open online article?
Yep, it's on Fresh Cup.
Go check out Fresh Cup. Good tips. Nice.
So handbooks and policies, onboarding, and then when we get into the real nitty gritty, the stuff that I really love to do, performance coaching.
Okay. So we've got handbooks and policy. We've got performance coaching, onboarding for sure. Are there any other key functions that you kind of think people should be thinking about within that HR space?
I mean, look, I have to do payroll every week. It's not it's not the most satisfying work.
For sure.
It's a little bit meditative though, and it does require quite a bit of coordination because it involves did people clock in and clock out correctly? are you following break laws? Now, that's a really interesting one.
That is interesting.
Particularly in California. So if we're talking about hourly workers, we have a few different considerations. Let's start at the very top, actually, because this is something people don't think about a lot. When you have a set salary, like I make this amount of money per year, in the United States, that salary should be at or above the overtime exempt minimum, which is different from state to state.
Okay, I think I understand that.
Yes.
But explain.
Yeah. If it's in California or New York, for example, it's going to be around like $68,000 US to, $70,000 US. And actually in Los Angeles, we're about to have a different one than the state that's about to be over $75,000 US.
Okay.
That means that if you're at that salary and you meet a few other qualifications of it, then you are overtime exempt. The job takes the time that it takes, whether it's 35 hours or perhaps even 50 hours. You have to be careful with that because obviously you don't want to overwork people. You don't want to have burnout and turnover, but ultimately you have to meet that threshold.
Is there a risk for that? Like that sounds to me like, okay, so you're starting to talk about a salaried worker. And I assume that it would be in the US that salary range is a medium to more senior level kind of role.
Yes.
And so then you're basically saying there's no overtime.
Yes.
Which is standard for salary, but is there a cultural tendency there for employers to kind of go, well, sweet. Yep, here's a whole heap of work. Get it done.
There is for sure. Like you have to have safeguards in order to in order to mitigate the risk of mostly burnout and turnover. You just can't saddle somebody with all of that. And there are things that you can do, especially when we're talking about, we just came from World of Coffee, for example. In my last salaried position, which meet the overtime exempt minimum wage, if I worked weekends at a trade show, I got comp time.
Okay, like a time in lieu, like you would take a day off later on.
Right. So I would register that comp time through our HR information system so that it would be registered in there, and either I could take that later as paid time off, or I got it paid out when I left the company. So there are those structures that you have to have in place. The reason that I bring up the overtime exempt minimum as something that's important is don't pay somebody a salary of $50,000 if it doesn't meet the overtime exempt minimum. At some point, you might be on the hook for whatever hours you can estimate that they worked overtime because you didn't meet the minimum.
Yeah, okay. All right, makes sense. So you got to really plan that out properly.
Exactly. You have to plan that out properly. Now, then we're talking about when somebody doesn't meet that minimum and they're an hourly employee. If we're talking about California, then if they work 6 hours and let's say 1 second, they're entitled to a 30-minute break, and they have to be able to take that break. They actually have to take that break before they hit 5 hours.
A paid break?
A paid break.
Okay.
Or, I'm sorry, an unpaid break.
An unpaid break.
Yes, an unpaid break.
Okay. Yep.
They get a paid 10-minute rest break, though.
Okay.
Yes.
So over time, that could accumulate as costs, obviously, for the cafe owner or for the business owner.
Yes.
And also changes the flow of the shift and like who's on bar and like all of that kind of stuff.
Somebody in an administrative position has to be able to keep track of that, has to break people at the right time. If they take the break past 5 hours in California, they get a meal premium, which means not only do they get paid for that 30 minutes that they were supposed to have unpaid, they get paid a full hour.
When a meal premium as in to go and buy food?
No, a meal premium as in they get their hours worth of work for 30 minutes that they didn't work.
Why is it called a meal premium?
It's just the that's just what they call it, the California meal premium.
I think what we're getting at here is incredibly complex and detailed kind of management of policies and legal compliance.
Yes.
And I think this is like an incredible case study of like, I'm based in Australia. I have no idea about these. And as you're saying, each city or state is different and the terminology in your local region will be a little bit different.
100%.
I guess this is the critical tip for anyone as an employee is to know those kind of policies, those regulations as much as possible, because it's kind of obviously your rights about kind of being treated fairly as an employee, but also for business owners, making sure that you've got this covered.
Yes.
Right? Because otherwise, I'm assuming you could either have repercussions of a whole heap of unforeseen costs.
Yes.
Or maybe not litigation, maybe litigation.
Litigation.
But you have responsibility.
And that's why, so Look, I've been on this journey, and as far as I know, I'm the only one doing it in specifically this way.
Sure.
Taking human resources and putting it through a coffee lens, because I do think that there are very unique challenges that this industry has that I'm trying to address through human resources. It's been an uphill battle a lot of the time getting people to say, I most often get, oh my God, that's so needed. And then it's like, well, if you need it, why not? Why don't you hire me for it? And it's like, and they think, I can't afford that.
Sure.
I'm preventative maintenance.
Yeah.
I am preventative maintenance for your company.
Yeah.
If you don't hire me at X amount to do this now, you will pay for it, and then maybe more than that in the sorts of liabilities like fines from the city or fines from the state or the federal government or litigation.
Well, there's so many areas that I think that business owners just don't have sometimes the visibility, or they haven't kind of thought through maybe not the repercussions, but the implications and the cost of these things. Like, I mean, the classic thing I know I've talked with a lot of business owners about is like, oh, they have a staff member leave, or there's someone unhappy who leaves. Like, what is the cost to your business for replacement, for rehiring? And like, you've got, obviously advertising and kind of trying to put out a job ad. You've got the cost for like interviewing like 20 people and seeing if they fit. So how much time is that taking from a senior manager to kind of review all of that? Then you've got like the downtime with a missing person in your operations.
Yes.
Like, is that putting added strain and maybe further leavings on your team? So like, you could quantify all of these. Maybe we need to do a human resources calculator there of like, put in your cost of person. If they leave, what's your turnover rate of staff equals tens of thousands of dollars.
Yes. And look, that all exists. Human resources theory and strategy exists in that way. So, I think another burden I have is telling people I am a business partner.
Yes.
Right? Because this is in fact the way that I think about all of this. There are touchy-feely elements to this. I am a touchy-feely person. I want to make a better industry overall. But that said, I am also thinking about what the cost of turnover is.
Sure.
And that's why then we get into performance improvement. If something is going wrong, performance improvement is an investment, but it's an investment that we can weigh against the cost of turnover.
Yes.
In the cost of being quick to fire. Also, what is your recruitment strategy? Do you have a recruitment strategy? I'd say 95% of them don't have a recruitment strategy. And that's not a shameful thing. It just is not necessarily something that you're thinking about that can be very effective. Time to fill. What does it cost to actually post on job boards? For my biggest client, we just hired an entire Brooklyn coffee shop off of 2 Instagram stories.
Wow. That's an efficient hiring system. Today's episode is sponsored by our friends over at Marco Beverage Systems.
I tell you what, baristas get slammed behind the bar day in, day out. I think they're the unsung heroes of the industry.
And Marco is quietly trying to remove some of their daily slog.
The Milk Pal is built for busy bars. You simply press a button, you got hot milk, hot foam, cold foam, textured to perfection.
It's definitely a lot of options. They can do dairy and oat milk as well, whatever you're working with. You just press the button, select the exact texture and the volume.
And then, because you can select the volume, you're not tipping out milk down the sink, wasting money, and baristas aren't glued to the steam wand all day.
If it sounds like the Milk Pal could help you, go visit marcobeveragesystems.com and learn a little bit more. I mean, this is probably a good case study for people that if you have what would be some of the top tips that you have for a great recruitment strategy?
So the first one is going to be a tough one. Build your brand. If you have an excellent brand, it will attract people who already have buy-in.
So a desirable place to work.
Yes, exactly. So in this particular case with Canyon Coffee, who's my biggest client, it already had this incredible brand in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
We didn't necessarily think that the brand extended all the way to New York, even though there were a lot of subscribers there. There are a few key wholesale accounts there, but it did. It got all the way across. It was through the memed experience of being at the Echo Park shop that then people in Brooklyn were like, oh yeah, that'll translate, and I want to work there. It seems like a cool place to work.
Cool.
So that's when we're talking about your external brand also matching your internal brand.
Yeah.
Internal brand is something that not a lot of people think about. What is the experience that your employees are having? We knew there was a good internal brand because there was very little turnover from when this Echo Park shop opened in 2022. There are still day one employees.
Nice.
So then that translates across the United States. And it's like, okay, this is a place where I can grow.
Yeah. And okay, so having a good brand, great hiring kind of platform to be on, like somewhere that people want to work. What are some of the other hiring tips that you would have?
Make sure that you scope out what's a good barista rate. And this is actually another thing that I've written about on Fresh Cup. What is the value of a barista?
Yeah.
Whether it's in the neighborhood or in the city, can you scope out, how much you might expect this person to make? It's really tricky with tips because tips are, and this is...
What are they? Sorry, coming from Australia, what are the tips?
So in the United States, we have this terrific system where we rely on the customers to subsidize the wages of the employee through tips. But
trying to figure that out that's actually an interesting thing that I've never considered before is when you're hiring a barista, how to give them a clear expectation of what they could make in this situation when you actually don't control it.
Your total earning potential? Absolutely. So in this case, we at least had the benchmark from a shop in Los Angeles to be like, this is what we're aiming for.
Sure.
And then if we might have some control element over that, like what is the POS showing in terms of what possible tip percentages you have? That makes a difference because some people are just pressing a button. They're not necessarily going through the mental math of like, what was the value of this interaction? They maybe are just pressing a button. If we focus on what those percentages are and we're trying to match a particular element so that there is less variance, that's human resources strategy.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay, so definitely kind of giving clear expectations to your potential staff members about what they should expect and what you expect in terms of that hire as well.
And where do we sit in the coffee landscape, which also influences how much we can expect a wage to be. Ultimately, the number that is maybe a general focus as far as labor percentage is 30%.
Yep.
That's what we expect in coffee, which is wild. I actually grew up managing movie theaters, and our labor expectation was like 10%.
Yes.
And 10% was like, you could really get that down to 7 if you tried.
Just
and I'm
like one person running around the popcorn machine.
Exactly. Taking the tickets, making the popcorn, cleaning the movie theaters.
Exactly.
But 30 is generally what we expect to see in coffee, particularly in the States. So we're, and paying attention to those numbers. And also, what are the expectations? Is somebody making a particularly complicated signature beverage, for example? Or do we have things kegged?
Yep.
Is there a lot of prep that goes into this to make sure that we can get people moving through a line quickly?
Yeah.
What is the quality of this versus the quality of this? And we particularly see that in Los Angeles, where there's so many different expectations, so many different expressions of coffee. So it's a lot to take into consideration.
A bit of a calculator.
Yes.
Yeah. It's interesting because we're talking a lot about retail and cafe environments, which is great. There's a lot of our listeners who are in that space. But also I've seen from maybe a larger business or like a roastery or an importer kind of space, I feel like some of the most successful hiring pathways I've seen is actually rethinking your ad. Like the ad that you put out for the role is like, what's the tone you're setting? What's the way you're describing the responsibilities and the opportunities? So the job listing out there really can begin that space of like getting the right people in the door, filtering out kind of the people who are not experienced enough or maybe don't have the right cultural values.
Yeah.
It's like always amazes me when a job ad goes up for some kind of marketing or communications or people-facing role that has got really stiff corporate kind of language.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, if anyone's like actually responding to this ad and vibing with it, they're probably not going to be good at that job.
Right.
You know, like the people who are like marketing people who respond and go, wow, that's like, I loved your copywriting on that ad. You know, that was really fun. And you're kind of saying, yeah, if you resonate with this, you know, come into the next step. And then the same with like the job description and the interview process. I think all of those things kind of need to flow on and sync. And then as you were saying, into onboarding.
Yes.
You know, that it should be just a coherent flow of the tone of that based on kind of how you want your company culture to go. And yeah.
I'm going to take it even further than that,
Yeah.
because most of the businesses that we will have worked in and that we will continue to work with, particularly in any sort of consulting way, are startups.
Yeah.
Which means things are changing constantly.
Yes.
So yes, I can have a job description that I reasonably think, okay, this is what I'm going to adhere to. It definitely gets the values across, but it also gets the responsibilities across. And then things change.
Yeah.
Business scales. And I love working with scaling businesses
Yep.
because I get to take people from entry-level positions into more specialized
Yeah,
positions. But that also means that every quarter I have to look at that job description that I gave them and say, do they do this?
Yeah.
And is
Yeah.
this all within their zone of genius? Is there something that I can pull from person A and then give to person B, but then free up person A's capacity to do something that will bring even more revenue or even more value? And how do I quantify that? I have to ask those questions all the time. Luckily, I love puzzles. I'm an avid crossworder. So, you know, it's like
Yeah.
I like to imagine where these things fit in the puzzle,
Yep.
but the puzzle's going to change.
I love that. Tell us, zone of genius. It stuck out. Tell me, tell everyone, what is the zone of genius?
So zone of genius is where you particularly excel with something, where there is a path of least resistance. My big zone of genius is difficult conversations.
Oh.
I love having difficult conversations.
A little spicy, a little like friction in there.
Yeah, if somebody comes into, and this happens often because if we're talking about, we were talking a little bit about the perception of human resources. HR is a toxic brand.
Yeah.
Overall.
Because of how it's utilized in so many companies, right? Where
Exactly.
it's like it's a company protecting themselves against the employees.
Yes. So I have psoriasis, which means that if somebody says something to me or I'm in a situation where I don't feel good, I start to itch. HR makes everyone itch.
HR does make everyone itch.
Right.
Maybe even people in HR.
Right, exactly. So I am expecting to come into a situation with somebody who I have not yet developed a positive relationship with or a good way of communication, knowing that they are looking at me with extreme skepticism. They're like, this is HR. Often they're looking at me as, oh, this is a career HR professional. But I'm not a career HR professional. I'm a career coffee professional. So I lead with coffee and then we get into HR. So I am fully ready to sit down with somebody who is thinking, this asshole.
Yeah.
Like this
Yeah.
guy is just going to tell me I can't do something or just going to tell me what I'm doing wrong. And then I find a way of empathizing with them or making any sort of connection. If it's a delivery driver, then it's like, you know what? I've driven the delivery van. I have woken up at 2:45 to go to a roastery and pack it full of coffee and deliver it to a bunch of different locations. If it's a barista, I have the repetitive stress injuries from before we had a puck press. Right?
Exactly. I feel your pain.
Literally.
That's how every HR conversation should start. I feel your pain.
And I would still do it too. I've done deliveries, you know, especially because it's like, you know what? Here's a pocket of time where there is a delivery that has to happen over an hour. The delivery driver's out, but it needs to happen now. You know what? I'm going to get in the van and I'm going to deliver some stuff. It doesn't matter that I'm HR.
So if we've got like managers who are listening, people who manage staff or in HR themselves or leadership, and they're going into a difficult conversation or what could be a difficult conversation. So I'm assuming people who have got like a bit of performance review that needs like it maybe not meeting the expectations or there's a company change and they're going to have to be let go or whatever it might be. How would you, or maybe it's not even that. Again, I'm phrasing it based on like a company doing something to manage an employee. But what if it's like even an employee has a complaint because they're not getting the treatment that they that maybe they deserve or that is respectful to them,
Yeah.
or there's a problem that they're trying to raise. And so you're on the receiving end of trying, as a manager, of trying to receive that. What are some suggestions that you have for how a manager can go into a difficult conversation to make sure that's successful?
Well, first off, you need to take care of yourself. And I'm going to make everybody do 4-7-8 breathing. Do you know what 4-7-8 breathing is?
Tell me 4-7-8 breathing.
All right. 4-7-8 breathing. First, we're gonna ground ourselves, and this is gonna be dead air.
We are out here in LA. Do we need to take our shoes off, put our feet
Touch
down?
grass?
Yeah, touch grass. We could
touch grass.
We'll do it later.
Either way, you're gonna ground yourself. You're gonna breathe in for 4. You're gonna hold for 7, and you're going to exhale for 8.
Okay. Breathe in for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8.
Can we do it even though it's going to be dead?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bear with us. Anyone like listening along on audio?
You should be
You
doing
can
it.
do this too. Okay. So we're going to.
So I'll guide you.
Okay,
All right.
please.
So we're going to breathe in for 4. Hold for 7. Exhale for 8. How do you feel?
I feel really good. I feel so good right now.
It basically resets your nervous system.
Yeah.
Do it first before you go into a difficult conversation with anybody, because
yeah.
suddenly you are on an even playing field. They might come in hot. That's okay. They can come in hot. I don't take it personally.
Yeah.
I have told a lot of employees recently, if you need to blow your top, I'm not going to tell you to not blow your top. You just can't do it with anybody else but me.
Yeah.
You have to blow your top off with me, because I am in a space where I can take all of that.
Yeah.
Then I need to the calmness that you have right now as a result of doing that.
Feeling so good.
I think I just changed your life, because it changed my life when I learned about that. Lead with empathy and curiosity, always. Lead with empathy and curiosity. Because even if let's talk about a very basic thing. Employee X is showing up late constantly.
Yep.
You know, and you can take it from 3 strikes, you're out. I'm not going to have any sort of conversation with you. You've broken the covenant.
Yep.
In which case you got to get the hell out of here. But that's not really useful to me.
Yep.
Because I don't know why they're showing up late. I don't know what the external factors are that are making them show up late. I also don't know if they realize it. I don't know if they realize the impact that it has on other people. So if I have a conversation with them, and this happens so often, if there are any sort of attendance issues, I'll sit down with somebody and I'll say, hey, we got a lot of tardiness, or we got a lot of call outs. What's going on?
Yep.
What is going on? And they're like, oh, was I like late a few times? And I'm like, you've been late a lot. Here are all the times you've been late. Color drains from their face. I had no idea. Like I actually had no idea that was happening.
Yep.
And I can hear the way that some people are going to react to this. It's like, no, it's just like, this is the deal. Show up on time. Like that's a very basic thing. But one thing that I want everybody to understand is there's no such thing as common sense.
It's like everyone's context is so different.
Yes.
Right?
Everybody's context is different in the way that they've shown up to anything in their entire life. It goes back to so many things. And then we can get into the whole conversation about generational trauma and every sort of thing that is going to impact the way that people show up in a professional scenario. But if we lead with empathy and curiosity, and if we say, let's try and meet, it doesn't have to be even be meet in the middle. It might be, I need you to give 75% and I can give you 25%, and then we can work something out. It's effective. I've seen it work. I've seen employees that other people would have just let go and then continue the cycle of that employee bouncing from job to job and not figuring it out.
And this feels much like when I was working in cafes or for any business, that a complaint from a customer is the perfect opportunity to win them for life.
Yes.
Right? Same for employees, right?
Yes.
Handle that situation, that complaint well with humanity, with kind of curiosity and empathy, but also professionalism, right? Like it's like clear communication. You're not saying, oh, no, that's fine. That's no worries. It's like, okay, well, we do need you to do this. This is why. That you could end up having an employee that is there for way longer than they might normally have been, because they feel like they're actually connected.
Exactly. And a lot of that manifests as well if I'm talking about employee complaints specifically. Can I solve the problem now? If I can solve the problem now, I'm going to do it. Is it a longer term problem solve? In which case, okay, I need to make it a task for me. I need to make it something that I look at and I'm like, what can I do to try and solve this long-term problem?
Yep.
If it involves getting upper management to do something, then this is an agreement that I have with anybody who I work with, from, CEOs to owners. Sometimes I'm going to be the asshole that continues to tell you, there's this issue, there's this issue, there's this issue. And sometimes I have to warn them, if you don't solve this issue, and if we compound all of these issues, do you want a union down the line?
Yep.
And look, I'm pro-union, 100%. That said, if I look at whenever they make statements about this is why we formed the union, I'm like, well, we could have addressed those from the beginning.
Yeah.
We can always address
they're kind
those.
of easy fixes.
Right, exactly.
Maybe not easy fixes, but...
Or this is an expensive fix. How much more expensive is it going to be down the line?
Yeah.
So then if I commit to those employees, I can't solve this issue now, but I will be your advocate.
Yep.
And I will try and solve this issue long term. And I will give you updates on the progress of this, even if the update is to say, I don't have an update yet, but it's always on my mind. Yes. I'm not letting you get left behind in this. Yeah. That goes a long way. And it has thawed, like some really, really tricky scenarios with employees and supervisors. It's like, I can be the conduit for this and I can try and make this better.
Yeah.
I can't always win, but I can get a lot of wins.
Yeah. I think there's some great bits of advice there.
Hey, Ben and Eric, it's Ollie here, quickly jumping in to give our weekly analysis. It's Wednesday, the 29th of April. The market is at 306.40 and the Aussie dollar is at 0.7187 against the US dollar, with the Brazil real sitting at 4.99580 against USD, 5.0 being the key selling point, which is where Brazil farmers feel they are getting value for money. Good news is that we are seeing pressure on Brazilian producers specifically to sharpen pricing. The average diff for Brazil, for example, down from plus 40 to sit around plus 10. The Brazil harvest has started, so we're likely to see that pressure increase, especially as the US dollar strengthens against the Brazil real. The Middle East crisis is, of course, the main driver for these high prices. Weak US dollar is putting pressure on the C market to be on that higher side of our slowly descending channel. We expect to see levels close to 307. Worst case scenario, we could see the market jump up to 317. Once the hostilities subside, however, we will see lower prices. But it remains to be said, of course, when that will sort itself out. My advice is to hold off if you're able and wait to see what impact the momentum of the Brazil crop has on the C market. And that's it from me. Back to you guys and your super insightful discussion of supporting all those amazing baristas serving our beverages. That's it from me. And of course, it's just coffee.
We've just moved location because sun was about to shine directly into my eyeballs and I was squinting at Eric across this seat. But so Eric, that's some great advice for a manager or someone kind of working with staff going into a difficult conversation. Let's flip it. If you are a staff member, an employee, and you are about to enter into a difficult conversation with your manager, any advice there for how to best handle that?
We'll start with 4-7-8 breathing.
Like, calm that stuff down.
And we're also, shockingly, going to start with empathy and curiosity. Because
Interesting.
If I think power is concentrated at the top, which means they are powerful and I am not powerful, they have the worst intentions, I have the best intentions and survival mechanisms and all of that, I'm actually not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
And this is something that I had to learn the hard way as well, when I was just like, God, these business owners, all of them are just doing everything wrong and they just need to be doing everything right. And it's like, I don't know what their situation is.
Yes.
I also don't know what they're going through having to manage so many aspects of a business. It is really, really hard. It took becoming a business owner myself to realize this shit is hard.
Yeah.
This is so difficult. And I have to hold a lot of different things at once.
Yeah.
And if I have even maybe 5 staff members, I have to hold a lot of different things at once in terms of their communication styles, in terms of their needs, in terms of the way they're showing up to work and what are the outside factors. So show up with empathy and curiosity. That said, hey, shoot for the moon, but also don't be entirely disappointed when you don't get the moon.
Yeah.
And so this one's tough because you're going to have to shop around to some extent in order to find the best place for you to be to professionally develop.
In terms of an employer?
In terms of being an employee.
Okay, yep.
Yeah. So you might not hit it out of the park with, whatever place that you end up with.
Sure.
But you can always get something from the experience.
Yeah. Yep.
You can always get some level of your own professional development just by being in the setting. So if you come with a complaint and it, falls on a disinterested owner, CEO, manager, human resources person, if that person's around, then it's like, okay, this probably is not a right cultural fit for me, but I know what my values are.
Yeah.
So now I need to find a place that
fits
those values, that shares those values. And luckily, there's never been more coffee businesses around.
Yeah.
Every jackass thinks he can open a coffee business, right?
Be a great jackass.
That's wonderful. Be a great jackass. Yeah. Because you're an audacious jackass no matter what. Getting into coffee is the ultimate exercise in audacity.
It is. And all of this conversation that we're having about it is, I think, so interesting for that sustainability of what we're trying to all build with specialty coffee in particular, right? It's like good people who are nurtured along the way and who want to kind of work at a great place that values them. And we talked briefly, sorry, this is a little bit of a segue, but right when we began discussing, you were talking about like how to hire well, and you were talking about having like a good internal brand and a good external brand. And I feel like that sounds synonymous with culture.
Yeah.
Like internal culture, like company culture.
Yes.
And I wonder how you see the difference between human resources and company culture, or are they the same thing?
They're not the same thing. Human resources is the all-encompassing factor of it that goes into the employee experience. And one part of the employee experience is culture. Now, culture is a tricky proposition because I think the immediate is, what kind of like interesting perks do they get or anything like that. I don't give a shit about a pizza party.
Yeah.
Take your pizza party and toss it.
Yeah.
If the manager wants a pizza party, cool.
Yeah.
They can do the pizza party. I'm not here to do the pizza party.
Enforced culture creation stuff.
If I'm imposing my view of what culture is that I want to see in coffee companies, it's one of professional development. That is the culture that I want to see and that I want to foster. How am I helping this person develop? Whether they stay in the business and ultimately we find their zone of genius and we can make it a specialty that is revenue generating or general value generating.
Yes.
Or are they going to move on and create their own company and contribute to this entire wonderful ecosystem? Like we've almost certainly seen a lot of people, I mean, we have a lot of mutuals as well, who start off at one business, learn a lot of things, and then go on and create another business that employs that many more people and brings us that next generation of wonderful coffee professionals who do incredible things to change the industry for the better.
Yeah, definitely. And so with culture, though, I definitely get what you're saying about the professional development. I think that's like across the board should be part of company culture and a mindset. But what about in terms of, like, say a business that I work with is, we identify the values that they have as a company and that they want to engender within themselves and their, as they operate out there in the world. And obviously that needs the team and the staff to also kind of, I guess, embody or at least showcase or demonstrate those values.
Yes.
So how do you see that kind of coming into, like, I guess, supporting a culture that is aligned with a company value?
It's all about communication standards, and it's all about teaching communication. I actually teach communication on an individual basis, especially when employees are struggling with it, or when managers, owners, operators are struggling with it. If they are struggling to connect with their employees and espouse those values that they hold dear, if they're not holding to that, then it's like, okay, what were the values that we said were a part of this company to begin with.
Yep.
Let's go value by value. Are you actually putting that across, or is that coming across to these employees? If it's not, then we got to talk about your communication style.
Yeah.
And we have to talk about the way you modulate that depending on who the person is.
Yep.
And we're going to get into that when we do hot takes.
Okay. He's already primed.
Right?
He's ready to go.
Yes.
I think that's interesting because I do consulting with a number of different businesses, and we've kind of worked on, the values, from if they're a startup, for example, and you're going mission, vision, values, why are we here? Where are we going? How do we want to conduct ourselves, right, as we go? But I think that a lot of businesses miss that point of they create the values that is important to them as a company, but then you kind of almost have to translate those into actions that are supporting or non-supporting for the employees to make use of, right? If you got, have something that's about, valuing the creation of community or something like that, is like, okay, that's a great thing. The business is kind of doing these things, but how do I, as an employee, take those and put them into practice? And it's different. Like if you're an account manager to an accountant to a barista, how do if I'm an accountant, how am I building community? And I think that's always interesting if you're trying to build a coherent culture and not uniformity, but but interconnectedness with that culture between team members.
And being consistent with it. I mean, that all comes down to leadership, doesn't it?
Yes.
And that's another thing. You actually have to train for leadership.
Yes.
And we have plenty of data,
Amen.
right?
I don't know. That's just a hot take right there. Train for leadership, please.
Train for all of it. I mean, we could get down to, because we have such a standard as far as training on espresso preparation, as far as training on milk steaming, but training for leadership, training for management, training for coaching, training for hospitality, training for any of it. It all actually has to be trained.
Yes.
There's no such thing as common sense.
Yeah.
No, we actually have to have it codified. We actually have to have it formalized as well, the structures in order to be able to do that. And it doesn't mean you have to stick to them 100% of the time. You can have some wiggle room in there, especially to accommodate somebody. But when it comes down to it, in order to actually just have the value, in order to have the values be more than just something that's in your handbook or something that you throw up on your website or whatever it is, you have to revisit them and you have to be as consistent as you can with them. And yes, you do have to be actionable with them. Yes. Community, great, cool. But what are the structures that put that into practice, especially if we're talking about an accountant or someone like that, somebody who might be a little bit off to the edge of that? How are they given the ability to participate in that? Is everybody being given the opportunity to participate in that?
Yes. Yeah. And that's kind of that long-term flywheel of nurturing that culture and seeing it express out there, and then hopefully successful coffee brands.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the most efficient way you can probably do that is to just set aside some time quarterly.
Yep.
And, in some cases, for Canyon, for example, we're doing our offsite quarterly with the leadership team in order to say, what does the next quarter look like?
Sure.
So even if you can't do an offsite retreat or something like that, you can still at least bring in the major, leadership stakeholders quarterly and say, okay, what does this look like? Did we actually adhere to our values? Are there ways that we could reconsider how we can put those values in action? Let's all bounce ideas off of each other. Let's be creative. And let's lead with empathy and curiosity when we do it.
Yep, always the catchphrase. HR, empathy, curiosity. That's where it should be. Well, I think we could continue talking for hours out here in the beautiful LA sun. Well, we're not in the sun anymore because my haircut doesn't support that exposure. Yeah. But we do probably have to wrap up. We do have a segment at the end of the session. You sneak peeked into that we have our hot take. So, Eric, do you have a little hot take for the listeners?
I sure do. Your workforce is neurodivergent. the vast majority of them are neurodivergent, which means one size does not fit all. We talked about modulating earlier. You have to be able to modulate for different types of neurodivergence and different types of communication styles. You can't just say, this is the way that we're doing things. You have to consider how that impacts people who show up in different ways, who have different zones of genius, but who also might need different accommodations for it. You have to be nimble. And it's actually not as hard as you think.
Yep.
If you lead with empathy and curiosity, you've already done half of the battle. But if you try and work with people in order to find the way that they can best show up, and you are able to at least a little bit accommodate them, but also challenge them at the same time within their capacity, you're going to have wonderful success. And you're also going to open yourself up to a lot of diversity of voices, of opinions, of cultures, of skills. Absolutely. Oof. And then I'll just say, you're going to be unstoppable.
Yeah. It will just go like this. Well, I think that's a really great point. I think like the modulation and the flexibility and kind of ability to not be too stiff and formulated. Like you need to have structure, but you need to be able to adapt because, as you said, not everyone is the same by any means. I think that's super, super important. And I know it's a struggle that I think some managers and business owners have, right? Because you have this kind of centralization of like, I'm starting a business, I think this way, this is the structure, that makes sense to me. But allowing for that change, and I think knowing where to kind of push or stretch, you know, we've got probably like at the moment, there's a generational gap between a lot of business owners and their employees.
Oh, yes.
Right? Which is probably always the case. But, you know, I definitely hear a lot of business owners and cafe owners kind of talk about the challenge of finding people who and employees who want to work in a particular way.
Yeah.
Or have values around their work. And I maybe there are some bigger meta kind of like conversations about the shift culturally and, you know, what our workforce looks like. But yeah, that's a really interesting one I feel like we could do a whole episode on just that of like, where do you push and how far can you push and how should you as an employee protect your own kind of understanding of yourself and the way that you work, but also understand that you're going into an environment that requires particular things and being respectful of that employment opportunity, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And just to operate with dignity, right? At the end of the day, your own dignity does matter in all of this.
Yes.
And if I want to leave anybody with any sort of general feeling here, it's all gray. It's all nuance.
Yeah.
There's so many things to take into consideration with all of this.
Yes.
If we accept that, but also accept that we can do it a better way, then we're going to find wonderful ways to do it. And we're also going to find wonderful examples to give to everybody else.
Yes. And I think it's, as you say, it's gray. So I think it's as an employee going in and saying, you know, my dignity isn't more important than the requirements for this job because it's not as black and white as that.
Yes.
Right? It's like your dignity is important. The requirements are important. You need to navigate like, and maybe dignity is a bit of a loaded word that we're using here because it's like, I just need to sacrifice my dignity.
No need to sacrifice your dignity.
But it's like, how do you interpret what is dignity and recognition and what is not a personal thing, but a requirement maybe of the environment.
How do you find the balance?
Yeah. It's so good. I love it. Great hot take.
Ha.
I've got a little hot take. Yeah. Stop promoting people into roles of incompetence.
Ooh.
Okay.
Say more.
This is the thing of like so many small business owners who are really great people and they have like a great barista on bar who's like great at talking with customers and they promote them to a manager position.
Oh yeah.
And you've succeeded in one task, an area of responsibility, and you're great at that. It's kind of your you know, what was your phrase here of the zone of
genius.
Zone of genius. That's their zone of genius. And then they get promoted because they're successful in that into an area where they might not have the same skill sets. And it's not good for them. It's not good for the business. So I think stop putting people into positions where they're not set up to succeed.
Absolutely.
And identifying. Or if you are promoting them into that, have a really clear look internally at like, are there some missing skills areas that you could strengthen and allow them to flourish in a new way?
Oh, absolutely. And this goes to 30, 60, 90. What do you want this person to accomplish in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? Yes. Succession planning. What does it look like for somebody to be able to step up to those types of roles? What are the hard and soft skills that we can start giving them in preparation for them to graduate into these roles, to naturally move into leadership? And a great personality and interaction with customers does not necessarily mean that they're a leader.
Yes.
So having those, well-defined, not operating in common sense land, but actually operating in, no, these are real
analytical
skills.
Kind of like really take a step back, take a moment to ask the questions. It's always the same thing even on interviews, I find, when you're interviewing potential candidates to bring into a business. What are the questions you can ask? The power of those questions. What are the questions you can ask that will tell you whether they actually have the skill sets and the mindset to go into a particular place and succeed?
And I'll tell you, there are no universals, but one thing that's close: critical thinking.
Yeah.
Do they have critical thinking skills? Almost certainly they don't, which doesn't mean they can't learn to have them. A lot of it is just getting past their own blockers in order to say, oh, you know what? I can actually come up with a solution for this. It might not be the best solution, but I want to be able to try it. And then I want to be able to get feedback on whether it was the best possible solution there.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, we also have a little segment to just like get the warm and fuzzies going a little bit at the end of the podcast. Do you have a shout out that you'd like to give to anyone out there, or an organization out there in the coffee world or further that needs a little bit more celebration?
I work with a lot of really wonderful people, a lot of whom are my good friends. I'm going to shout out two of them right now. My first is my best friend, Erica Escalante, who is an incredible cafe consultant, works with tons and tons of businesses on improving their systems and making them better for owners and employees. The other one is Jamie Lau, who is a legend in Los Angeles coffee. Most notable probably for folks out there as being a grand slam of a coffee competition coach. She has coached 3 national champions within the last 3 years here in Los Angeles.
That's a skill.
Which is extraordinary, but she also is an absolute wizard as far as coffee shop hospitality is concerned, and has had quietly probably the biggest influence on hospitality in the cafe experience in the United States, if not the world.
Wow, that is a shout out. Love that. Sharing the love. Well, mate, thank you so much for spending some time with me and just talking through all of this. I find it fascinating. I think it's like, kind of, as we said, it's like the undiscovered superpower of the coffee industry, right? Is like getting great. I mean, it's the foundation of specialty coffee is the people that are behind it, and unleashing that kind of potential and supporting that, I think, is so critical for our coffee future. Whether you're a barista, a cafe owner, you're working for a roastery, you own an import company, whatever it is, we've got to harness like the people skills there for sure.
We have to. We have to. And it's all there. It's all there for the taking.
Yeah. And so if anyone listening is keen to find out more about what you do, maybe check out your services, where can they find you?
Instagram's the easiest. Eric J. Grimm, that's 2 M's at the end. I'm the coffee human resource if you're looking for any sort of, consulting or understanding of the bigger things that I do. Humanresource.coffee.
Nice.
As easy as that.
Check it out. And if you're listening and you'd like us to feature anyone else on the podcast, or you've got any questions or ideas or thoughts, we'd love to hear from you. Just drop us an email at hello@itsjustcoffeepod.com, or drop us a DM at It's Just Coffee Podcast. We've got 2 different handles there. And let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, thanks. Cheers.